Don't be in a hurry to analyze just yet, and don't make aesthetic excuses for yourself. Don't think about things like this outfit looks high-end, or that look is more my type. To be blunt, before your brain even had a chance to react or weigh the pros and cons, that silent little person in your heart already pressed the shutter on that decisive snapshot. Can you believe it? Attraction never asks for your permission, and it doesn't need to explain itself to you. It's like a GPS in the depths of your soul that, at this specific moment, forcefully dragged you right in front of me. As you stare at these images on the screen, do you think you're just judging beauty? Actually, your subconscious is using this window to leak your emotional underlying code and the very hole in your life that you lack the most. Let's cut the high-sounding nonsense. Just do one thing right now. Something extremely simple and extremely honest. Looking at these 5 women, who makes your heart race the most? Who gives you an inexplicable curiosity or even an urge to get closer? Forget logic. Don't think about who she is. Just see who your eyes stick to first. That first reaction is your rawest, most blood-red truth. This whole thing is quite mystical. In psychology, we say that attraction is actually a kind of slang for the soul. Before you even open your mouth, your intuition has already written a 10,000-word summary report. You think you're attracted to the person you like? Hey, the truth is you're usually attracted to the person you need. To tell you a harsh truth, you might even be attracted to the person who can precisely stab your wound. In this noisy world, every one of us is acting, playing the role of someone, normal or mature in the eyes of others. But attraction doesn't lie. It's a revealing mirror that reflects your unspoken needs and the emotional patterns you've quietly hidden to protect yourself. Are you chasing stability, or are you craving a passion that could burn you to ash? Are you looking for someone to catch your tears, or an instructor to handle all your messes? You need to understand that this isn't just a simple beauty pageant or personality test. This is a mirror. It reflects how you connect with the world, what kind of relationship makes you feel safe, and what kind makes you as addicted and desperate as a withdrawal. Actually, many times we keep falling into the same toxic relationships because we don't understand how this fatal attraction of ours works. To be honest, your choice right now is no accident. If you happen to feel that life has been exhausting lately, or if you feel like you always run into the same kind of ghost in relationships, then we're on the same page. Make sure to follow. This space is dedicated to those who want to live life with total clarity. Every like is a vote for your own awakening. Now, I'll assume you've made your choice, and you won't take it back. Don't think twice. Your first instinct is usually the most accurate answer that reflects your shadow self. Are you ready? What we're going to do isn't to crack these images, but to crack you. Let's start with the first type of energy, the gentlest and most heart-wrenching. If you're caught by the first woman at first glance, that feeling like the first ray of morning sun or the orange light you see when coming home late after overtime, then I need to shake your hand. Because people like you are, to put it bluntly, emotional refugees in modern society. In psychology, this attraction isn't because she's beautiful, but because your soul is vibrating intensely with one word: empathy. Let's talk about people like you. On the outside, you might seem perfectly normal, maybe even a bit aloof. But can you believe it? Your inner world is actually much deeper and heavier than the average person. You are born with a high-precision emotional receiver. You don't need to hear what the other person is saying. Just by standing there, you can feel the unspoken grievances, anger, or heartbreak in the air. This makes you an excellent listener, a friend someone can safely trust with their back at 3 a.m. But this superpower comes at a price. Actually, empaths like you often grew up in environments where you had to be mature too early. Have you been learning to read people's faces since you were a kid? Have you always quietly swallowed your own grievances just to take care of someone else's emotions? This choice exposes the deepest pit in your heart. You desperately crave a real, unperformed, equal love. You always want to redeem others, to be the carpenter who repairs their soul. But have you ever thought that while you're busy holding the umbrella for everyone else, you're already soaked to the bone yourself? Behind this type 1 energy hides an extremely dangerous logic of self-sacrifice. You always feel you have to give something to be useful, to be worthy of love. This leads you to be a magnet for emotional man-children or predators because you're too sweet. You're like a walking emotional power bank. To tell you a harsh truth, this attraction of yours is sometimes an emotional trap you've dug for yourself. You think it's true love, but it might just be your subconscious trying to complete your own redemption by redeeming others. The one thing an empath needs to learn most is to save a little bit of that compassion for yourself. Don't let your kindness become a free pass for others to hurt you. All right, that was just the appetizer. If you didn't choose type 1, but were hooked by that type 2, who is so calm she almost seems cold, don't rush to think you have unique tastes. This means your subconscious is currently fighting a psychological defense war over order and fortresses. Let's dig deeper. If you skipped over that gentle type 1 and fix your gaze on the second woman, that type 2 who looks exceptionally steady, even carrying a bit of a don't come near me aloofness, then I have to congratulate you. Your heart has finally figured things out. Can you believe it? People who choose type 2 are, to put it bluntly, mature souls who have been repeatedly hammered by life and have finally learned to counterpunch. Every cell in your body is now chasing something called absolute security. To tell you a harsh truth, my brothers and sisters who pick type 2, you have likely had enough of an unstable, perhaps even turbulent, emotional life. You might have once been that sincere youth who was far too trusting, showing your heart to everyone. And the result? The result was being hurt over and over again, only to realize that the thing that truly gives you security isn't some romantic vow, but that emotionally stable sense of order in the other person. This obsession with stability is actually a form of emergency escape for your subconscious. Your soul is frantically searching for an anchor to steady your fate. In psychology, this attraction is actually a form of defensive worship. Why are you attracted to someone who looks extremely rational, even a bit cold? Because you are terrified of losing control. You fear sudden emotional outbursts, endless cold wars, and drama. So your subconscious feels that as long as you find someone with perfect logic, your life won't collapse. This choice exposes your deepest fear. You are afraid of your own emotions. You feel you can't handle complex feelings, so you want to find an instructor to help you manage them. You aren't chasing heart-racing romance. You are chasing a clear landscape, a sense of security where you can see the end from the beginning. You hate surprises because, in your world, surprises usually turn into scares. Let's dig even deeper. Where does this order-seeker personality come from? This is quite interesting. When you were a kid, was there always someone going crazy at home? Or were the adults' emotions extremely unstable? Sunny one moment and a thunderstorm the next? To survive, you had to learn to freeze yourself. You felt that as long as I don't show emotion, as long as I act calm and logical, the storm wouldn't hit me. So, your current attraction is actually looking for a bunker just like you. You feel that love isn't as important as the person being reliable and reasonable. But here's the most heartbreaking part. You've defended against the hurt, but you've also blocked intimacy out in the process. Have you noticed? Your emotional life right now looks a lot like an office, high efficiency, but zero human touch. The shadow of this type 2 energy is an extreme emotional autism. You think you found a safe harbor, but you've actually just built yourself a beautiful ice sculpture. If you keep hiding in this shell of stability, you won't get hurt, but you'll also never feel the sensation of boiling blood or a soul-level resonance. Isn't that just another form of slow suicide? All right, having talked about these two extremes of the calm camp, we need to get the vibe moving. If you were caught by that type 3, who is red hot and radiating a wildness you can feel right through the screen, I need to take a sip of water to calm down. Why? Because those who chose type 3 are destined to be dopamine gamblers. People like you don't understand the phrase, "that's good enough." To put it bluntly, the soul of a type 3 player is directly connected to fire, blood, and the most primal passion. People like you cannot stand a lukewarm, boiling a frog type of ordinary life. In your dictionary, it's either extreme brilliance or total destruction. There is no such thing as the middle ground. You pursue a vitality that makes your hair stand on end, the thrill of getting a goal done no matter the cost. If you feel life is boring right now, it's likely because the fire under your seat isn't burning hot enough yet. This is actually quite dangerous. Have you noticed? People like you are extremely prone to a cycle called compulsive repetition. You're always attracted to people who are magnetic but extremely unstable. That passion that sends your heart rate to 180 is often just a variation of anxiety in psychology. You can't tell the difference between true love and the masochistic desire for what you can't have. Why do you feel like a calm relationship is a prison? Because there is a massive emptiness in your heart. You feel that if you aren't stirring things up, you don't feel like you're alive. This dependence on intensity is actually a powerful painkiller you prescribe for yourself to cover your inner void. You can only find a sense of presence in those high-stakes emotional wars. To tell you a harsh truth, those who chose type 3 were often the most ignored during their upbringing. You might have had to scream and shout or act out just to get even a second of an adult's attention. So, as an adult, your subconscious feels that only a blood-red, deep connection counts as love. Plain and ordinary happiness feels like an insult to you. Behind this type 3 energy hides an extreme tendency toward idealization. You aren't usually in love with the person, but with the high they give you. You imagine the other person as a god who can save you, only to find out they're just a mortal full of flaws. This pain of disillusionment makes you quickly look for your next prey. You're like a starving person in the desert looking for water. Even if it's a mirage, you'll dive in for a drink. You need to understand that all fireworks eventually turn to ash. If you only have the ability to cause explosions but not the backbone to handle the aftermath, you'll spend your life job hopping through toxic relationships. The one thing a life warrior needs to learn most is how to find beauty in ordinary life. Don't always think about conquering the stars and the sea. Sometimes, conquering your own restlessness is a higher level of combat. Finally, we have to talk about those two most elusive ones, type 4 and type 5. If you are caught by these two energies that look very natural, perhaps even a bit plain, don't rush to think you are as calm as still water. Can you believe it? This craving for authenticity is actually a grand retreat of your soul. You haven't reached enlightenment. You're just truly done with the pain. To put it bluntly, type 4 and type 5 represent a philosophy of escapism. People like you have likely experienced the kind of massive internal friction that shatters your worldview. You tried empathy and got drained. You tried control and failed. You tried passion and got burned. Now you're tired. You don't want to act anymore, and you don't want to shrink yourself to please anyone. Your current logic is simple. No one bother me. I just want to live like a human being. This attraction exposes your deepest craving. You want an effortless connection. You don't want to guess the other person's mind anymore, and you don't want to play hard-to-get games. You want the kind of unspoken understanding where you can both read your own books in silence without feeling awkward. This minimalist, emotional need is actually the final line of defense you've built for yourself. But there's a major blind spot here. Is this piece you're chasing true maturity? Or have you locked yourself in a dust-free lab because you're afraid of the pain? Have you noticed? Your current frequency of attraction is filtering out all relationships that might have depth because you fear that what if of being hurt. You simply reject all what ifs. This is like a person building a grass hut on a ruin. The wind won't blow it over, but you can't see the scenery outside either. This logic of a grand retreat might save your life, but it also strips away your most primal drive as a living being. Your obsession with authenticity is sometimes a disguised form of silent treatment. You use silent treatment on yourself and on the world because you no longer dare to believe in complex things. You need to know that true freedom isn't the absence of conflict, but the confidence to handle it. Is your current strength through detachment the open-mindedness of someone who has seen through the world, or the despair of someone whose heart has turned to ash? Don't let your clarity become your grave. If you lose the courage to have your heart broken, your soul key might never open the next door. Now that we've talked through these 5 energies, do you see it? You're no longer just an audience member judging beauty. What you've experienced in these few minutes is a bomb disposal surgery for your subconscious. Behind every choice is an unhealed wound, and seeing that wound clearly is the first step to taking back your emotional remote control. All right, we've dismantled these 5 energies into tiny pieces. At this point, you might be sitting in your chair feeling a chill down your spine, or that feeling of being seen through is churning in your gut. Hey, don't be afraid. This pain is actually your soul breaking out of its cocoon. To put it bluntly, those times you stumbled in relationships weren't because you had bad luck or because you met the wrong people. It was because that autopilot system in your subconscious was always steering you off course. Think back. Is it true that every time you felt, I've finally met the right person, the story eventually turned into something familiar? That compulsive repetition is actually your subconscious frantically searching for energies that can let you relive childhood trauma or fill a black hole in your heart. You think you're in love? No, you are conducting a massive emotional archaeology. You're digging through the ruins for the validation and security you never received. Carl Jung once said a sentence that you should remember for the rest of your life. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. What we did today, to put it bluntly, was to snatch back the remote control of your fate to see which button it's pressing and where it's leading you. Whether you chose the empathetic type 1, the rational type 2, or the wild type 3, that wasn't the destination. It was just a snapshot of your soul at this moment. It tells you where your energy is right now, where your pitfall is, or where your life buoy is. Do you need the freedom to breathe deeply, or the stability of being rooted in the soil? Do you need the order of absolute control, or the authenticity of facing the shadow? The truth is, in this life, we might have to travel back and forth between these 5 energies several times. Sometimes you need to hide. Sometimes you need to charge. The most terrifying thing isn't which one you chose, but choosing one while pretending to be someone else. This mismatch between words and actions is the only root of all your internal friction and pain. So, here is the point. After seeing all this, what do? Do we just accept this as our fate? Of course not. I'll teach you a move. It's the ultimate master move for taking back emotional initiative. Next time you feel that destined feeling of it has to be them for someone, don't rush to confess your love. First, Ask yourself one question. Am I in love with them? Or am I in love with the familiarity they bring me? If it's familiarity, you need to be on guard, because that so-called spark is often your subconscious recognizing a hook in that person that can precisely stab your wound. You have to learn to fight against this instinctive impulse and try to engage with people who originally felt a bit plain or not exciting enough to you. Can you believe it? Those people who make you feel comfortable, grounded, and like you can laugh out loud even without makeup. They are the antidote you truly need. True growth isn't finding a God to save you. It's when you realize you are a patient and you finally learn to prescribe your own medicine instead of looking for candy in a trash heap. You need to understand that what you are attracted to reflects what you think you lack. If you feel you lack love, you're easily mesmerized by empaths. If you feel you lack order, you are easily manipulated by controllers. But the truth is, you are already whole. You don't need anyone to complete you. You only need to discover yourself. In the coming week, I suggest you try a very interesting experiment. Observe the people around you and look at their energy fields. When you find yourself wanting to be the savior again, or wanting to be the victim again, shout "cut" in your heart. When you can jump out of the script like a director and coolly watch yourself acting, congratulations. Your subconscious hacker attack is officially a success. The power of this awakening, though it feels a bit chilly at first, like being cut open on an operating table, is the only pain that can make you understand. There are so many different ways to live your life, and you don't need to shrink your heart for anyone. In this noisy world, the person who can guard their own emotional remote control is the truly tough one. All right, that's all for the little secrets in your soul today. If your heart skipped a beat just now, or if a certain sentence hit your mark, then our signal connection was a success. Don't forget to leave your soul number in the comments to see how many comrades share your frequency. Every comment is actually a mark you leave for your own subconscious. Hey, I see you, and I'm not running anymore. I am your soul navigator. Remember, attraction is just a form, but the awareness you bring into it is the most valuable thing you'll ever own. Guard your heart well. I'll see you at the next crossroads of the soul. Don't be in a hurry to leave. Your new life actually begins the second you turn off this video and push open the door to walk out.